Chapter 32. Captain Tromming Clog had finished filling in the prison pit. His paws ached with weariness, and his tawdry finery was coated in dust. Pushing the barrow to a corner of the courtyard, he lowered himself gently into it and let the enormous wooden clog slip from his footpaws as he heaved a melancholy sigh. "'Tis an hard life, and no mistake. But at least battering ain't got me standing guard up on the wall like those fellers." Clog lay in the barrow, watching the guards on the wall top silhouetted against the early night sky, ruminating to himself. "Aye, his and mighty lordship will be drinking wine and dining off fish and roasted fowl in that longhouse, while I've got to bide here till morning, waiting for a crust and some water." The corsair heard the thwack of the sling stones as the two wall sentries fell in a heap. He smiled wickedly in the darkness. "Ha! Them slaves is learning fast. Now, if me and Battering were still partners, I'd raise the alarm. But we ain't. I'm only a slave, and raising alarms is not to do with slaves." A volley of flaming javelins whooshed in over the walls. Clog was well out of their range. He watched with great interest as they hit the longhouse, 2 or 3 missing, some falling flat on the roof, but the majority thudded into the timber walls, blazing merrily. Another wave of burning javelins streaked through the night sky, like comets, finding the wooden palisade fence of the slave compound. A mighty roar rose from the shores outside Marshank. "Fur and freedom!" Battering came tearing out of the longhouse, stood on a lighted javelin by accident, and hopped about on one paw, yelling, "Attack! Attack! Stand to arms! Wall-top stations!" He grabbed 2 scurrying, half-asleep soldiers. "Put that fire out! Quick!" They stood, undecided. "But we ain't got no water, sire." The enraged tyrant knocked their heads sharply together. "Addlepates! You sand, earth, dust!" He dashed off to the wall top, drawing his sword as he shouted orders to the horde milling in the courtyard. "Archers! Sling throwers! Follow me!" Bala and Feldo doused the fire they had used to ignite the javelins. They split up, each taking half the force. Bala to the back of the fort, Feldo to the left side. Feldo's attackers flattened themselves against the earth and lay quite still. The squirrel passed the order along to his group. "After Bala's troops send their javelins off, be ready." Battering peered out across the deserted shore. The archers and sling throwers stood ready for his command. Crosstooth stood beside the tyrant, watching. "They'll be hiding behind those rocks on the shore." Battering could see what the fox said was true. He raised a paw. "Archers, put a volley or 2 over the back of those rocks. That should flush them out. Ready! Fire!" The shafts clattered harmlessly off the rocks, leaving the beach still silent. There was a hissing noise in the air. Instinctively, Battering threw himself flat on the wall top. "Down! Get down!" Too late. 3 horde beasts fell to the javelins that sped in over the back walls. Propelled by the throwing sticks, they smashed and splintered on the fort side of the wall top. Battering was up and running around the rampart. "The slimy tricksters! They're round the back! Come on!" Feldo crouched low, watching the wall top, his javelins and slings ready. "Here they come. Wait for it now. Let them get to the middle of the wall. Wait for it. Steady. Steady. Now!" The javelins and sling stones whirred off into the night, wounding 3 and slaying a further 2. Feldo's troops immediately fell flat, blending with the landscape in the night. As soon as they had launched their javelins, Bala's command dashed off to the right side wall and lay low. Battering had left half his archers to fire at Feldo's fighters, leading the other half around to the back, only to find the rear landscape deserted. He banged his sword handle hard against the wall. "The scum! They've probably backed off into the marshes. Cringing curs! Why don't they show themselves and fight? Boggs the ferret had served long in Clog's crow's nest. He had the keenest eyes of any beast. Peering hard into the darkness, he stood stock still, straining his eyes. There's creatures out there. I'm sure of it, sire. Where, Boggs? Can you see 'em? Badring's voice was low and excited. Aye, I can now, sire. They're a good distance off, but coming this way. Looks to be out 6? No, 5 of them. Badring took a bow from a nearby rat. Give me your arrows. You there, give Boggs your bow and arrows. The rest of you archers, notch up your shafts and lie low. Don't fire until I give the word. Plastered with mud, hungry and bone-weary after trekking the country, lost since emerging from the marshes, Hisk and 4 survivors staggered through the darkness. The weasel captain rubbed dirt from his tired eyes. Peering at the shape that loomed ahead in the night, he gasped in sheer relief. It's Marshank! The fortress! We're safe! Come on! They broke into a shambling run, cheering hoarsely. To Badring, it appeared that the 5 figures were charging. Mistaking them for enemies, he drew back the shaft on his taut bowstring. Let 'em get a bit closer. Wait. Bala and his throwers released a salvo of javelins from over the right side of the fort. The force on the left wall top had an idea where Feldo and his troops were lying. They kept them well pinned down with arrows and slingstones. Bala's javelins caused disarray among them, and a weasel shrieked as he was struck in the side. Young Juniper leaped up, calling triumphantly. "Ha ha! That stopped him! He fell with an arrow protruding from his chest. His friend, a young mouse named Yarrow, stood up, completely in shock. They got Juniper. Look, there's an arrow stick. Kayla tackled him low around the footballs. Yarrow fell, staring in amazement at the arrow that pierced his paw right through. Feldo was grim-faced as he dragged Juniper's body to him. Keep your heads down. Kayla, we've got to get out of here. Help Yarrow. I'll carry Juniper. Now all of you, crawl fast and stay low. Follow me. Badring crouched below the parapet, straining the arrow against his taut bowstring as he watched Boggs scanning across the wall top. The ferret dropped down by the tyrant's side and nodded. They're very close now. We can pick 'em off like daisies. Badring glared along at the archers ranged in a crouching row. We're not taking any prisoners. Kill them, now! The 5 creatures went down like stones as a hail of barbed shafts hit them. 2 more volleys followed, thudding into the bodies to make sure they were truly slain. Badring was shaking with exhilaration. I only wish it had been day. Then I could have watched the looks of surprise on their stupid faces. Bala took his fighters around the front and along the beach, meeting up with Feldo and the others at the foot of the cliffs. The hare was in high good humor. Toppo, what? I think I could get to liking this soldiering life. We gave them a bally good lesson and not one of us was harmed. How did it go with you, squirrel, my lad? Feldo nodded towards the limp form on the ground. Juniper was killed. Yarrow was wounded. The exhilaration of victory left Bala and his command. Poor little chap. Here, I'll carry him. It was a sad procession that made its way along the cliff tops back to camp. In the dawn light, a group of horde soldiers gathered round the 5 carcasses shot full of arrows. Glog watched the venomous look on Badring's face and laughed humorously. He did well last night, matey. Slayed Hisk and 4 of your own. Still, you could be forgiven for the mistake. They're so covered in marsh mud, they could have been any beast. The tyrant's paw shot to his sword, but then he thought better of it. Turning on his paw, he barked out an order as he stalked off. Fleabane, whoop! Make that slave dig 5 separate graves and bury that lot. Don't spare the rod. Keep him busy. Roanoke stood over the small grave that Feldo and Bala had dug, as near to the cliff edge as the rocky ground would permit. Brome put the finishing touches to an herbal dressing and bandage on Yarrow's paw. There, good as new. How does that feel? Yarrow lifted his paw up and down, wincing slightly. Thank you, Brome. It still hurts a bit, but I'll live with it. Not like poor Juniper. He wiped away the bitter tears that flowed afresh on the bandage. Brome threw a comforting paw around the young mouse. Come on, let's go and say our farewells to him, Yarrow. Bala and Feldo made him a nice resting place that will always stand free to the sunshine and wind, in sight of the sea. The entire camp gathered round the grave. After a short ceremony, summer flowers were placed on the fresh filled-in earth, and Barkyan said some words. It is always sad when a young one who has not seen many seasons is taken from us. Juniper was such a mouse, cheerful and well loved by all, but he did not die in vain. This young one gave his life fighting tyranny, so that others in the seasons to come may live in peace and freedom. That is all I have to say. Would any beast like to add a word or two? Feldo stepped forward. He laid Juniper's sling and stones amid the flowers. You're a brave fighter, Juniper. We will never forget you. Badring and his horde will pay tenfold for your death. As the fur and freedom fighters drifted away from the grave, Yarrow sat alone by the flowers, gazing numbly at the resting place of his friend. Brome caught up with Feldo and motioned him to one side. That was not a goodbye to Juniper. It was an oath of vengeance. How many more must die before you're satisfied? Feldo's eyes were like rain-swept pebbles as he answered. As many as fate decrees, myself included. I will not rest until Badring is dead and Marshank brought down. He strode off in search of fresh lancewood. Caston watched them parting before going across to Brome. Do not blame Feldo. He feels for Juniper as much as you, Brome. The young mouse shook his head. No, he doesn't. All he feels is that he must take revenge and carry on killing. He was my hero once, but now it's like talking to a strange beast. I don't know him anymore. Caston watched the lone figure of Feldo in the distance. He is a warrior, and that is the way of warriors, just like the mouse Martin you are always talking about. Brome shouldered his healing kit. If Martin is a warrior like Feldo, then may the seasons help my sister Rose if she is still with him.